What's up, old school homies? Let's talk about the V8 engine. This is something that I've noticed my dad's generation thought was the coolest thing, and then my generation kind of trickled down into thinking this was a good idea, and then most of my friends that bought V8s couldn't afford the gas and got rid of them. I never got one. I always wanted one too, but then I was never really sad that I didn't get one because I started to realize my friends had to pay about 100, at least $80 to fill up their gas tank, and it didn't last very long. So, I mean, just being in the car with them, going from one destination to another and watching the gas just fall to like half a tank or quarter tank just to go one place, it was just like, gosh. I looked at friends like, that hurt your wallet pretty bad, right? Like, and they pretended like it didn't hurt, and then they kind of stayed home and didn't go out very much. And that's what you'll usually see with people that own V8s. They keep them in the driveway. They'll usually have kind of a glorious car that the V8 goes into, like a big SUV or a big truck, something big, and you're not able to really drive it because you can't afford the gas. So a lot of people's idea is to borrow their wife's car to go to work or get a real economy car to drive to work, and then supposedly on the weekends they're having a good old fashioned time just driving this other car. Like, it really required you two cars to have a good time. So there's a lot of problems with the V8. Not mechanically, but yes, mechanically it's overrated at this point. A lot of people like to point to the fact that a V8 is more durable or reliable. Okay, we've been building the V8 since the 40s, so having something reliable is really just having something that has been around for so long that it has no choice but to be reliable, but it's still not as reliable as a 4 cylinder or a 6 cylinder, in my opinion, because of the uneven wear pattern of a V8. Go ahead and research it, but not all of those cylinders wear evenly. I think the eighth cylinder is usually the worst as far as the wear. And it kind of goes straight into the face of everybody saying, oh, well, this particular V8, I get it, Like, if you wanted to get that answer out of me, I would say the Ford 289 would be one of the most reliable V8 engines. As you start to go into like higher and higher cubic inches, some of the forces of the engine might not be as balanced. I don't think 454s last as long as 350s, and I don't think 350s last as long as 289s. So your problem is that a 289 doesn't have all that much horsepower. I mean, it does, but I mean, it doesn't really have the horsepower mark. It has more torque, which does feel like the car is going faster, but um, honestly, the V8 engine is not really the most high performance engine anymore. And that's why it's really not being put in supercars anymore. The Corvette's the last supercar that anybody puts a V8 engine in. Everybody else is supercharging, turbocharging, using smaller engines, revving higher, and that way they can hit the red line quicker. There's a few dead spots in a V8. I'm just going to be honest. It has kind of a nice top end, but it takes a while to get there. And straight off the line, it just doesn't feel very good either. It's just kind of luggy. So it has sort of like a mid-range, high-end power band, in my opinion. And that flies in the face of a lot of other engines that have power all over the power band. Now, another misconception about the V8, other than affording the gas and actually needing the performance or not finding the performance in it, would be that you think a V8 has a good sound. Okay? This is something my dad pushed on me, and all the dads of the 50s have pushed on to the next generation. the exhaust note is actually weird. They call it a rumble, right? Like when you start up a V8, all the exhaust comes out and then it kind of comes back in like an unbalanced way. So the back pressure of the exhaust slows down the rotation of the engine a little bit. It goes, and that's what people like. They want that back and forth action because it adds bass to the note to have a little bit of back pressure to fight against. Now, if you like the sound of the V8, I have my own particular sound of it that I like. Everybody has their own because some people like it louder and some people like it quieter. I would say I could always tell a V8 sound, even if it has a stock exhaust. It has a rumble, and people like the rumble. It's the same reason we buy a Harley Davidson. If it didn't make that noise, we wouldn't buy it. So a sound that's a little bit shallow. Now, a lot of people think they could pick up chicks if they have a highly powerful car. Let me tell you, girls don't know what engine is in your car. You could pretend there's a V8 in there, put a little sticker on the side, and they would know. Now, even men don't know which V8 got put into their car. There's lots of choices. So every time I've ever asked a guy, did you get the 302, the 409, the 390, they don't know. They don't know how many cubic inches they have. They would have to pop the hood. And then you go, well, did you get the small block or the big block? They don't know. Virtually, I mean, maybe like 5% of guys know which size of V8 they even bought. There's no reason for it. It kills gas mileage. It makes you into that guy that just kind of has to park the car in the driveway. And if you take it out, you're polluting the air more than you need to. A lot of those newer V6 engines have virtually the same power. And it's not like they're building really small six cylinders to put in trucks. The six cylinders work just fine. They're just as reliable, if not more reliable. So I would say, since there's not a huge amount of fuel to bump up your chest with, just forget about the V8.